Well, hello to everyone down in Guyana. Hope you are having a good day today. We're experiencing a lot of rain today, but you're aware of what it's like to have a lot of rain. We're looking forward to studying with you today and being a continuation of what we've been studying, and that is marriage and family. We're talking about how to have a happy marriage and how to have a happy home. And I think that's what God intended for us to have. Now, there may be some today that are with us that have not had benefit of the lessons before, but these lessons will stand alone. And what we'll be talking about today, I'm sure, will be very helpful to any of those of you that are first-timers. We're going to be talking today about building a wonderful marriage. And let me just mention in the very beginning that this is not my lesson. A fellow by the name of Dr. Donnie Hilliard put this lesson together. Donnie was a good friend, a member of the Prattville Church. He also was a professor at Faulkner University, and he headed up the Cloverdale Family Enrichment Center, and he traveled around a lot of places, and he taught congregations in weekend seminars on family and marriage, and so he had a lot of expertise. And I believe, I don't remember where it was, but somewhere in Guyana, he taught this particular lesson. And he allowed me to put it in our book on how to have a happy home and marriage. And so I thought I would talk to you about it today because it is such a powerful lesson and such a needful lesson. There's an adage in carpentry that says, before you make a cut, measure twice and cut once. Now, that's good advice. It saves a lot of extra expense if you make sure exactly of what you're doing before you make that first cut. I've heard people say, I've cut this twice and it's still too short. Well, that's what we're trying to prevent. That's what this carpentry adage is trying to prevent. A wise builder always proceeds with caution. And as we talk about this principle as it relates to marriage, it's important that we measure twice and cut once. In other words, let's try to do it right the first time. And that's what this adage in carpentry is saying. Let's do it right the first time. And when it comes to marriage, especially, we need to make sure that we do it right the first time. If we follow this principle, I know that it'll help us to build, strong marriages. If we measure twice and cut once. And what we're trying to say is, in marriage, let's get it right the first time. How do we do that? We take a lot of caution in making sure that we choose correctly before we enter into a marital relationship. We don't want to do this lightly, or we don't want to do it on a whim. If we're going to build a good home, then we need to follow certain patterns and practices. One of the things I would suggest to you, if you want to, if you're not already married and you're thinking about marriage, if you want to be successful, look around and find some people, husbands and wives, that have successful marriages. And you look at what they do and you follow their example. And it's going to help you then to build a happy marriage. My folks were married once. My wife's folks were married once. And as we had that as an example to follow, it's helped us in our marriage. And we're working on 59 years of marriage. So I know that we can have, successful and happy marriages. And we need to make sure that we plan well. when we are trying to have a successful marriage. They don't just happen. When we plan well, then we're going to succeed. But we've got to plan well if we're going to have a successful marriage. There's a common myth in marriage, and many of us, we fall susceptible to this particular myth, and that is that we believe that if we can find the right person, then we're going to be happy and we'll have a successful marriage and we'll build a happy home. Well, the fantasy goes something like this. A fella might say, you know, if I could find a woman that is beautiful and smart and can cook, then I'm going to have a happy home. And a woman might say, you know, if I could find a man that, you know, was pretty handsome and had a good job and made lots of money, then I'm going to have a happy marriage. Well, the thing is, when we're depending upon other people to make us happy, then chances are we're not going to have a successful marriage. Now, one thing that will help, and I hope that a lot of people do this, but it's not always promised that we'll have success. But if you can find a Christian and marry a Christian, chances are that you can have a happy marriage. What I'm trying to say is, don't think that you have this dream of marital bliss, that there's some kind of magical lover that's going to come along and sweep you off your feet, and you're going to get on your white horse and you're going to gallop off into marital bliss for the rest of your life. Folks, it doesn't always happen that way. And more often than not, it doesn't happen that way. Now, it's critical that we choose the right mate. But more importantly, rather than trying to, choose the right person, what we need to do is work on ourselves. That's what's really important. Instead of looking for the right person, and I don't want to minimize finding that person, but instead of looking for that person, we ought to make ourselves the right person. We ought to make sure when we come to marriage that, we're the person that God wants us to be. And if we are, whether man or woman, then we're going to be the right person for the one that we choose. And I think that's extremely important. It's when we come to marriage and we're going to enter into marriage, we're two different people. And when we start this marital relationship, we bring along a lot of baggage with us. And I'm not talking about a suitcase that we normally carry clothes in. I'm talking about, what we've experienced in life, that we need to make sure that we're helpful when it comes to, this experience that we're going to bring into this marital relationship. And what is it that determines this? It's where we are socially in our life, and what experiences we've had in the past. And it has to do with our unique genetic makeup. All of these things are going to have something to do with the baggage that we bring to a marriage. Now, God, Jesus, made this statement. He is God. In Mark chapter 10 and verse 8, he said, a man is to leave his father and mother and cling to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. Boy, that's important. We got to recognize that we're two different people, and we're coming into this marital relationship, and we are different. And the thing that determines, who we are and what we are and how we react has to do with, our background. It has to do with our parenting. I'm a lot of what my parents were and what they wanted me to be and what they taught me. And that determines who I am and what I am. Even illnesses enter into this, and maybe accidents, romances that we've had in the past, and school impressions. All of these things are part of the baggage that we're going to bring to our marriage. And an important thing is, our church relationships, what mine are and what that partner is that I'm going to choose. Now, when we get on the honeymoon after our marriage, we're going to begin unpacking all of this baggage from the past that we brought to this relationship. And some of us are better prepared than others to unpack this luggage and baggage that we have. But what we have to understand is when we, as two people, enter into a marital relationship and we begin to be one, that there's a big period of adjustment that has to be made. It has to be made in the lives of both who are coming to this relationship. In the States, about the middle of the United States, there's a river, the mighty Mississippi. And up above the Mississippi and its origin up north, there are two rivers that run parallel to each other. And these rivers eventually dump into the Mississippi. And when they do, it creates a lot of rapids. And for a period of space, the river is in unrest, and these rapids occur. Now, you know about rivers because you have, two great rivers in Guyana, the Essequibo and the Demerara. And I know there's rivers that empty into those, and you've witnessed the turbulence that's caused when these rivers, empty. Well, when two people come into a marital relationship, then there's going to be some of this turbulence. And we have to make a decision that, we're going to do the right thing regardless. And we're going to make, certain adjustments so that there's not going to be as much turmoil. But it's a period of adjustment. I want you to listen how important entering into this marital relationship was to the people in the Old Testament. God gave Moses these words to say to the children of Israel. In Deuteronomy chapter 24 and verse 5, he said, if a man has recently married, he must not be sent to war or have any other duty laid on him. For 1 year, he is to be free to stay home and bring happiness to the wife he has married. Boy, that's shows the importance of this first year of marriage and the adjustments that need to be made. Now, I hope that worked out well for them back then, but I'm sure my employer wouldn't give me a year off just so I could make that adjustment. But the point of this is that it's important, and it is a time of adjustment, and we need to make sure that we make the right adjustments. Now, there's a lot of secrets to having a successful marriage and a happy home. And one of the hardest lessons that I had to learn as a young married man, and I'm sure I'm not in this alone, that some of you have experienced the same thing, and that is my wife was not expected to go along with everything I had to say. Now, I, tried to explain to her that I was the husband and the head of the family, but still, it wasn't my responsibility to make her go along with everything that I said or wanted to do. And this is a period of adjustment. Why would my wife not go along with everything that I had to say? You know, I was right in everything. At least I thought I was. But we were two different individuals. And she had her own mind, and I had my mind. Now, we didn't fuss and fight over these things, but it was a period of adjustment, and we had to learn that. And we did. We did real well, I think. When we got married, I was in the military, and it was quite an adjustment for my wife to be married to a fellow in the military when she'd never experienced this in her life before. But it was something that we had to adjust to, and over time we were able to do that. The one big thing I think we need to learn when we come into a marital relationship and when we're choosing, you know, that partner, is that marriage is a two-way street. Now, it isn't a 50-50 proposition. I've heard people say, you know, marriage is a 50-50 proposition. We're going to do this and give and take. And no, marriage is 100% proposition. When I come into the marital relationship, I've got to be willing to give 100%. Now, that's what makes marriages successful, and that's what makes for happy homes. We're willing to give all that it takes. There's going to be, you know, times when my wife is going to be right, your wife's going to be right. As a husband, you know, I was right. As a husband, there's times when you were right. But we have to understand that we're not going to let this turbulence exist in our homes. And we're going to try to be as happy as we possibly can be. We need to realize that the thing that is going to help us have this happy relationship is who I am right now. Because you see, that's the person that I'm going to bring into this relationship, who I am right now. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't need to change or there's nothing that you need to change. And over time, you will change some things. But what I'm trying to say is this: instead of looking for the right person, and that is important, don't let me undermine that, but I need to become the right person. And that's what's going to help me to have the kind of relationship with my spouse that I need to have. That's what's going to help me to build, you know, a happy home, is when I'm willing to give 100%, because I'm becoming the right person. And I do that now before the relationship. But if you're already married, this is still something that you need to learn as well. It's not too late, you know, to start giving 100%. So it's crucial, it's a crucial role to make the right selection of a marital partner. But it's also equally important that you become the right person. And, you know, I'm the only one I can actually work on. And I'm the only one that I can change. Me. And if I'm trying to become the right person, then my wife will probably be the right person, and we'll have a happy relationship. It's the belief of many that it's someone else that's going to make me happy. And that's not true. You can have a happy relationship because you chose well, but also because you came to the relationship as the right person. In marriage, we reap what we sow. And if I'm wanting love and tenderness, then I'm going to have to give love and tenderness. And that's what I'm going to get in return. If I want respect and kindness, then I've got to show respect, and I've got to show kindness. And when I do, then that's probably going to come back. There's a principle. It has to do with giving, but it also can apply in this situation. Luke chapter 6 and verse 38, it says, "Give, and it'll be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be poured into your bosom. For with the measure you use, it's also going to be measured to you." Now, God promised that in our giving. If I give to Him, it's going to be returned, and many times over what I gave. But that's also true in our relationship with one another. If I give all of these things to my spouse, then I'm going to get those things in return. That's the promise that God made. And I know some are saying, I don't know that that's going to work. But let me challenge you. Just try this and see what happens. Young people in the audience, if you haven't chosen that mate yet, start being kind to the person you think you're going to marry, and respect that person and give that to them, and see if you don't get that in return. And if you're married, try this. It's never too late for us to try these things so that, we can produce a happy home. Now, there's other things that I'd like to talk about. I'm not going to do that in this lesson because our time's almost gone. And normally I would stop here and say, do you have any questions? But since this is a recording, I can't hear the question, and therefore I can't answer it. But my challenge to you is, take the things that we've talked about and talk among yourselves. Asking questions and getting answers. These lessons were prepared with that in mind, that after they had been presented, that you would then discuss them among yourselves. So let me challenge you to do that. Take the lessons, and some of them have questions at the end. Discuss those questions, and I think you'll find that it'll be extremely helpful. I've enjoyed being with you today. I hope that you have gotten something out of this lesson. I know just reading it over myself, I've gotten an awful lot out of it, and if it can help me, I know that it can help some of you. As I said, it was good to be with you, and I look forward to the next time we get together, and we'll continue for a little bit talking about how to have happy homes and happy marriages. I'll see you the next time. Thank you for viewing.